Max still don't have no tweeter.
Oh boy. Yes, folks, you heard it right. Max still does not have no tweeter.
That's how we're starting? Oh, awesome.
Welcome back, folks, to another episode of Calling All Nerds, episode 3. I am one of your hosts, Tyler, and I'm joined by my friend Max.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back.
We have I would say a light gaming topic, heavy entertainment discussion kind of podcast kind of happening here in a little bit.
Yes, but that's okay, because with Calling All Nerds, like we talk about anything we want to talk about when it comes to entertainment. So I think it's going to be a good one.
For sure. So some of the topics we have today will be focused around Cyberpunk and kind of what's happening with that in that realm, because everybody knows we are in the Cyberpunk waiting room. We have AMD with their new CPUs, Disney with laying off roughly 28,000 park employees, some kind of sad news in the Regal Cinema realm, and then we'll finish off with kind of our usual of games we're playing, games that have been released, and an entertainment of the week. But first, before we get into that, we always like to start with a question. And I didn't think of one, so we'll see how this goes. The question of the day.
I like this though. I like when we don't think about it and we just go into our first instinct. I think we should keep with that. I actually really enjoy that.
Let's go with favorite genre of a movie. What movie genre? And it doesn't have to be. Let's not say favorite, but like, what's kind of? Well, I guess it would be kind of favorite. What's the genre that you can always rely on when you're just kind of bored? You might be chilling on the couch. And you're kind of just like, you're maybe not like dying to watch a movie, but you just know that this genre is always kind of there for you. If you're kind of indecisive, you don't know what you want to do, what movie genre calls to you the most?
Gosh, that's hard. If we're going by, because I really love all genres of movies as long as they have a good story. If we are going off of that, where it's like you could watch it at any point in time, don't have to pay close attention. It's just something you kind of want on, so like
some background noise.
Yeah, some background noise, but you know that you love watching it. I think for me, it would be solid action.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say drama, but I love drama when I have to like pay attention to the movie and like watch what I'm seeing. With action, normally I can just put it on in the background, sit down, curl up on the couch, and just enjoy and not really have to think too hard about what I'm seeing. But I love it.
What was the most recent action film that you've seen?
Gosh, most recent action film.
Doesn't have to be new, just maybe what was
the most recent. I honestly think the most recent action film I watched was Reservoir Dogs. I don't know if you could even call that an action film.
I don't even know what that is.
So it's Quentin Tarantino's first movie ever directed by him, I believe. And I'm a huge Tarantino fan. I don't know if you could classify his movies as action. It's really kind of hard to classify his movies, honestly.
They're very unique.
They're very unique, and that's why I love them. But that's a movie I adore watching over and over again. The writing is so good. But
Reservoir Dogs?
Yeah, Reservoir Dogs.
All right, make note of that.
Yeah, and don't worry, Tyler. I'll introduce you. I'll introduce you to some great movies. We got plenty of time for it. But what about you, man?
My initial thought went to just a rom-com. But then when I heard you talk about the idea of like you like to pay attention to a drama, it kind of made me feel the same way. I find that even if I have like a rom-com up and I'm like, oh, it's just going to be background, it's never just background, and I do kind of want to pay attention to it a little bit more than I think.
Right.
So I think because of that, I would probably say action as well. Yeah. Actions are just, especially ones you've seen, you can just kind of like have them on. And you like know what's happening. You're like, oh yeah, they're like doing some stuff, and maybe you're like working because now we're staying at home, right? It's work from home right now, and so a lot of times I actually have movies on in the background just to have some noise going. And I think this wasn't the most recent. The most recent action movie I watched was actually today, called something at the Gates. It was a Jude Law movie where it was like a Russian sniper versus a German sniper during World War II.
Ooh.
Something at the Gates. Let me look it up real quick.
That sounds really awesome, actually. Like thinking about that. So, is it a recent movie? Like, did it come out a while ago? Or
okay, Enemy at the Gates came out in 2001.
So not recent.
No, but I think it was recent to Netflix. I think this is why it appeared. Because when I turn on Netflix, this one's been kind of poking at it for a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's got a pretty good cast. It's got Jude Law and it's got Ed Harris, and them two are like the main. That's Jude Law's the Russian
Jude
sniper.
Law, yeah, he's probably really young.
For sure. So he's the Russian guy, and then Ed Harris is the German sniper.
Okay.
And so it was a good action movie. I didn't have to like just sit and stare at it all the time and like pay too much attention.
Right.
Like nothing against the storyline. The story was good. I just didn't have to like focus too hard.
Right.
But so yeah, I would say action as well would be my go-to.
Yeah.
Cool. So we have to start off with some Cyberpunk news. I think Max kind of wanted to touch on a little bit of kind of what's happening here towards the end of Cyberpunk's developments and everything as it ties together.
Yeah, the wait for Cyberpunk is almost over. For those of you that have just joined us on this episode, Cyberpunk is really Tyler and I's kind of big awaited game. Really the last one for this year, I believe. I don't think there's anything else coming out other than, of course, the new console games of any consequence. Yeah. So like you have like a few launch titles for PS5 that are going to be huge, but honestly, Cyberpunk, I truly believe whenever we have our like game of the year discussion at the end of the year, is going to be the game that's like right up there with like Last of Us 2 of like, is this the game of the year? And a lot has happened in the last 2 weeks since we last did episode 2, and the game has gone gold. That was alerted just a few days ago.
Yep. And what does that mean?
So basically, when a game is gold, that basically means it is ready for release.
Beautiful.
It just needs a few updates. They were still working out some kinks, some like they're still working on things here and there.
They're not done.
Right, they're not done, but the game itself is ready to be released. Yeah. It can be released in a complete fashion.
It's in its most playable state that it's been in since the start of development on it, so which is great to hear. It's
sure.
It's a beautiful thing to hear.
Yeah, whenever you hear a game has gone gold, that's a pretty great. It's almost like a game reaching the finish line, and at this point, they're just kind of doing a victory lap of like what they need to
polishes.
Yeah, polishing and everything like that. But there is also some other great news and some not so great news. One of that being that, we found out that there's going to be one more episode of Nightwire. So Cyberpunk Night City Wire is like the show that they do monthly to kind of just delve more into Cyberpunk itself as a world. And it gives people waiting for the game more to learn about how it works, everything like that. And the last 3 episodes have been really great.
Yeah.
And episode 4 is going to air on the 15th, so this coming Thursday. And it'll be at 6 p.m. Central Time, so 5 p.m., I believe, our time, right after work. And it's going to be all about vehicles. It's going to be about transportation, how you get around the world. And this is actually one that I'm probably just as excited about when it comes to learning how this game works, because I always loved seeing your character in either the cars in that third-person view or that first person, and wondering like, am I really like do I really have full ability over this car, traveling, everything? Like, with how massive the city is and how lived in it is, it makes me wonder like where are we going to be able to drive? Because it almost seems to me like there's like designated lanes, like designated like driving areas. Because it'd be kind of crazy if you could just drive a car right into the middle of like a giant group of people in the city. You know what I mean?
Maybe, unless they Grand Theft Auto it, and you can just drive anywhere.
Yeah, they could do that. I feel like that'd be insane, but that'd be really cool.
I think one thing I'm excited to see is how Mad Maxy are these vehicles going to be.
Oh.
We've seen a few, right? We've seen a few of the city vehicles, where they're futuristic, like Lamborghini kind of looking things.
Neon
you know,
lights.
and like we've kind of seen some of the outskirts vehicles, but I'm kind of curious to see, because they've said that, at least from what we've seen in trailers, there's shops that you can go into to tune your cars.
Yep.
There's this whole like upgrading system. So I'm just kind of curious as to like, and when I say how Mad Maxy, it's like, what are you going to add to your car? you gonna have like guns in your car? Are you gonna have like spike wheels or something?
Right.
Are you
how
gonna have
how are they gonna let you customize it?
off road? Is it gonna be good for speed? Is it gonna be good for like bumps? I don't know. That's what I'm kind of excited to see what it'll be like, and the variety.
Yeah.
How much variety is there gonna be in these cars?
Yeah, that's what I'm excited about too. I honestly, like, I know for me personally, I know that you mentioned like Mad Max. Mad Max is my all-time favorite like nickname. It's one of my favorite movies, series. And if I can make my character look like Mad Max, and if I could name him, I don't think I can name him, but I think I can like, you can customize how your character looks basically.
Yeah, you don't think you can name him? Oh,
I don't know. I thought that they had like a designated name for you, but I could be wrong.
I think I guess I could be wrong, but I feel like they called the character something, but I think that's their way of just calling it the character's name.
Oh, okay.
For like, just for like trailer releases and stuff like that, they try not to like obviously say like, oh, this is you. It's like you. I don't know. Yeah, I guess that's interesting to know. I guess I don't know if you can name yourself.
I mean, I hope so, because if I can, I'm definitely calling myself Mad Max.
Yeah.
But that is like my dream, is if I could customize this car to look like a Challenger and just have like some kind of cool like trophy on like the front, and just make it look as much like the Road Warrior vehicle as possible, because I would love that. I would love it.
Yeah, I feel, I hope they go that route. I could see it. I could see it also being maybe not too much customization.
More just colors and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I really don't know. I got no idea. It'll be cool to see.
I mean,
Thursday.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, we'll definitely talk about it next week once we see it. But, like, with as much care and detail they've put into this game, I'd be shocked if there wasn't a pretty decent amount you could do to these vehicles, hopefully.
Yeah, especially with, it seems like they're nomads, right? That's the third one of the starting zones are called nomads.
Yeah, if you start as a nomad, you start outside of the city in the wasteland, and so you have your family, like and like you find cars, you tune them up, you kind of make what you can of them.
See, because they have a thing dedicated to it, I guess I can't imagine it not being intense for the vehicle, right? Because the whole point of a nomad is to have these vehicles
to get around.
Yeah, so I feel like they'll probably be pretty extensive. It'll be exciting to see for sure, like what you can do.
I just can't believe we're gonna be able to play this game in like a month.
Yeah, for real. I mean, it's the 9th today. We have a month and a week, I think.
Yeah, we got about 5 weeks till this game is released, and I just
crazy.
Yeah, this is probably the most excited I've been for a release of a game since like, probably like Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yep.
Gosh, yeah, that's gonna be crazy.
And it's coming under Thanksgiving, so people who have days off for Thanksgiving and can devote some time into the game, perfect for that.
Oh yeah,
get some days off.
That's really what I'm doing. I will say, hopefully tonight after we do some perusing with my PC, I'm kind of nervous, like as a new PC owner. For those of you that don't know, I know that we've been talking about this over the last few weeks. I finally got my PC in the mail. It's great. I got a Dell G717, and it runs really well. I've tried a few like high quality games in terms of graphics, and it seems like there's like some issues, and it could honestly just be with this one game that I'm playing, in all fairness. Like, I know that each game is like done differently. There is a part of me that's like nervous to buy Cyberpunk on PC, just because I'm worried that like I'm gonna have those same issues.
Yeah.
And I'm still like in that phase of like, okay, for a big game like this, I don't have like a designated area that I can sit down and just play for hours on my PC.
Yeah.
So I'm like wondering if, at least until I can build up, at least until like me and my wife move to a nicer, like a bigger house, and I'll have like a designated area for like a gaming setup.
Yeah.
If I should get it on console, that's something I'm still trying to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think on our first podcast, we talked about the system requirements.
Right,
Yours
it's
definitely
well above.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, mine definitely clears it. I think I'm just I don't know. I think like once we test it, it's the unknown of I'm not used to playing on PC, and so like when I'm playing these games that look beautiful on it, but like I can like see where like there's like graphic issues, or like I'm playing Hellblade right now, for example. Spoilers, I know that's later when we say what games we're playing, but I've been having some issues with this game where like basically like the screen, like during like really big like animated scenes where there's a lot going on, the game will like slow to a crawl and then like freeze for like 2 to 3 seconds before stopping, and then it like and then the fan just like blows really quick, and then like mouths during cutscenes are off with the audio. And it could very well just be this game, because it may just have the GPU running really hot. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be a bad port, because I don't know if it's originally a PC game.
Right. I mean, no, I don't think it was. It's originally a PlayStation game, I believe.
And then sometimes, Sony doesn't have the best ports. And then sometimes it could be a Game Pass thing. Not all Game Pass games are amazing. Like when I didn't know that. When I was playing Will o' the Wisp, Ori's game, I was having a lot of audio issues.
Oh wow!
And I actually had to download it to my C drive, which was a little annoying. But yeah, we'll look at all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
we'll get through that.
I really appreciate Tyler, because like he has put up for the last few weeks all my questions on PC gaming as I delve into this world of it.
Do not mind at all.
And then one final thing. This was actually something that it was sad to hear, but I kind of wanted to talk to you about it and see what you thought of it, Tyler, just because I honestly was really happily surprised with how they announced it compared to these other news articles you receive out there of just when it comes to crunch. And this is an article from Bloomberg, which Jason Schreier now works with as a journalist.
Okay.
And for those of you that may not know out there, Jason Schreier, I'm like ruining his name. He is one of the best journalists for video games I've ever read. Like, this is not the only article I've ever read of his. He is very much an advocate of just good work environments, finding good stories, and when he finds a good story, he writes these really in-depth articles about it. And he's probably the top, if not the best, like gaming journalist out there right now, Jason Schreier. Yeah. Everyone should look it up. He used to work for Kotaku, which he has amazing articles on there, but he now works for Bloomberg, and he's just continuing his great trek. But there was this article that came out on the 29th of September, where basically the publisher of Cyberpunk 2077 orders a six-day weeks ahead of launch. And to give more information into that, I'm going to pull this up here. And like I said, this is a reference from that article. But this is in an email from CD Projekt Red Studios head, Adam Badowski. He wrote that he was optimistic about the state of Cyberpunk 2077, which stars Keanu Reeves, and that they have just sent the game to be certified for release on Sony Corp's PlayStation and Microsoft's Xbox. Now, he wrote it was time to fix the game's many lingering bugs and glitches, and he says this: starting today, the entire development studio is in overdrive. Your typical amount of work and 1 day of the weekend. The extra work will be paid as required by Polish labor laws. Many other video game studios don't pay for overtime. I take it upon myself to receive the full backlash for the decision, he wrote. I know this is in direct opposition to what we've said about crunch. It's also in direct opposition to what I personally grew to believe a while back, that crunch should never be the answer. But we've extended all other possible means of navigating this situation. And so basically he said employees would continue to count on bonus payouts amounting to 10% of the company's annual profit, which is huge.
Wow.
This will prove to be a lucrative sum. As analysts estimate, the Warsaw-based company's net income will rise 11-fold to 2 billion zloty, which is, I believe, the Polish currency, which is $520 million in American currency in 2020.
Wow.
And CD Projekt Red honestly does not have that many employees. It has 1,079 employees across all of their studios.
Yeah, and they split that. Half is Witcher and half is Cyberpunk.
Yeah, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was really the main story of the article. And I remember when it came out, there was a lot of controversy around it.
For sure.
But before I ask what you think on it, I just wanted to say personally, I kind of like that the head of the studio himself came out and stated that this was what was going to happen. I'm sure they had internal talks with their dev teams to say, hey, to fix these bugs, these glitches, all these issues that we're finding within the game. We have to do this.
Yeah.
And crunch is a very negative thing. I know personally for myself when it comes to gaming, I hate it when dev in any company have to do crunch time, like overtime. But at the same time, I love that they are being compensated for it.
For sure.
I like that they're getting that overtime, that they're getting that 10%, which is ridiculous. It's so cool. That they're open and honest about it, which a lot of companies will not talk about crunch unless it's kind of delved into by a journalist and they discover it from someone on the inside.
Yeah, it's just a scary word to say.
Yeah, it's a very scary word to say usually. But I think also it just kind of shows that like they literally tried everything to get this game to the best place it can be. And I think at this point, this is one of those situations where sometimes crunch is unavoidable.
Yeah.
This is a game that these devs have been working on for, I want to say almost a decade, if not longer.
Yeah.
And they've put their blood, sweat, and tears into this game. And I know that more than anyone else in that studio, they want that game to be as perfect as possible when it comes out. And so I feel like in situations such as these, you really kind of have to think of it from that perspective. A lot of people are saying, this is unfair to developers. Like this shouldn't happen. And I agree with that. But I think in this particular situation, it kind of goes back to maybe they kind of want to do this too, to really make this game the best it can be. This is their baby.
Yeah.
And they're getting compensated for it. Of course, I'm speaking out of my butt because it's like, unless we had like the word or a written article talking to the actual developers themselves, we don't know how they feel about it. But from my understanding of CD Projekt Red, it seems like it's a very good work environment that I feel like this is the best way to kind of talk on crunch for them. But what did you think when you heard about that?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess for people who might not know, I'm a developer. That's my job. I do front-end development, back-end development. So I've dealt with like release schedules and doing all that type of deal. So with that being said, the crunch doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I guess I'm allowed to talk about this. Like we just launched a new website. Today's Friday. We launched a new website a few days ago. So we've been working on that website for, honestly, before quarantine started. And this past few weeks, the crunch time has been intense. Right?
Yeah.
Like definitely had the stay up pretty late hours. I think on Tuesday night, I was up till midnight doing some stuff on something, trying to like fix a bug. And I don't know, it just is what it is, and kind of what you touch about where I guess we can kind of compare, let's just compare this website to the video game.
Right.
The website, it is kind of like a baby in my life. We were all nurturing this thing, raising this thing, and trying to get it to where it needed to be. Same with how I feel like some of those game developers are. Like this is their child. They've thrown things into it. They've raised it. They've tried to like mold it to like the way that they want it to be. And when it's time to like let go, you want to make sure everything's like ready, and it is okay to let go. And that's how I was feeling with the site. I was like, I got to make sure that things are good. I found some bugs on certain browsers, and I was like, I can't announce that this site is live until these are all fixed, right? At least the ones that I was aware of.
Yeah.
If I was aware of a bug, I wanted to make sure that it was squashed. I didn't want to... It's one thing when bugs come up out of random, from like random, who knows what happens. But it's another thing when you know if there's bugs and you don't want to just release with those known bugs. And I would assume that's very similar in games. Like, sometimes I feel like I've played games where I'm like, how did they not notice this? Yeah. And how did they let this go by? And I feel like whenever I played like a Witcher game, if I found a bug, it wasn't like happened every time. It wasn't like game-breaking bug. It was like a random, I don't know, my dude would get like caught in like a mountain and like weird shit would happen, right? So it wasn't like a known bug. And I feel like this is how they're treating this too. I assume they're aware of what's still in the game. Maybe the car still cuts out in certain places. Maybe there's some outfits here and there that are still clipping. And I feel like right now the crunch is everybody knows where there's some small issues and everybody wants to fix those small issues. And I just feel like even just outside of development, when it comes time to just releasing something new, crunch time happens.
Yeah.
I mean, look at look at like remember when oh gosh, you remember when like the iPhone like 5 and 6 came out and people were like lining up outside of Apple stores for like
huge lines.
Miles, it felt like.
Yeah.
And those workers had already been there the day before and like were working until the next day. Like literally it was like, oh, they come in for their normal shift. It's midnight. They're still here. They're waiting all the way till 8 a.m. and then they open up the store and then they're there all day selling phone, right? It's just like what happens when you have something new and it's like a big staple. You just, I don't know.
You want to make
just
sure
put
to the
more
very
hours.
last second that it's the best thing that it can possibly be.
Yeah, I feel like crunch is inevitable. I almost feel like if you didn't have crunch, I don't know, maybe you just were really good at timelines and you push things out a lot, or I don't want to say if you didn't have crunch, you didn't care too much, because I don't think that by no means, but I don't know, it seems more rare to not have crunch. And I think that if more companies came about it the same way that they did, it wouldn't be so scary. Because, like, I know the one that comes to my head is, who does Grand Theft Auto?
Rockstar.
I thought I heard something with them about some crazy crunch times that were happening a while ago about some of their games. I think it was for, what was the Western? Yeah, for Red Dead 2, there was a lot of controversy around the amount of hours people were putting into the game because it was like an unhealthy amount of hours. I don't know. I feel like it is normal. It sucks, don't get me wrong, but it's also not like, again, I don't know the full story of the Red Dead one, so don't maybe count that right now, but crunch doesn't last a year, right? Crunch doesn't last 6 months. Usually crunch is like that last month or so. And if it was a forever thing, that's a problem. If you're working 6 days a week, literally your entire life, that's an issue. But if it's just this let's wrap things up, I don't think it's that bad.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think you're right. I think the reality of the situation is crunch is everywhere for any kind of business, especially in gaming. I just wish companies were in the gaming industry were less secretive about it, like you said, and that they treated their devs with respect and paid them for that extra time. I think that's the key. I think that's the key for me, where it's like, I've already stated it. Like, I hate it when I have to see people crunch that hard because I know that it affects their personal lives and their like mental states and their physical states. But at the same time, if it's important to you and you want to do it, plus you're getting compensated for it, then it's like, do you know? And that's the right way to do it. Unfortunately, it's probably not the way that the majority of companies do it. But I just want to bring that last bit to the Cyberpunk story.
For sure.
I thought that was very cool.
And then I guess if anybody's interested, apparently there was a Russia Night City Wire. I can't say I know anything about it. I don't think, Max, you said you didn't even hear about it.
Yeah, I didn't even hear about it.
I saw CD Projekt Red tweet about it, so maybe if you're curious about it, you can go check out their Twitter. I don't really know what it is about. I don't know why. Who knows? But that's a thing. So there was a Night City Wire that happened in Russia. But yeah, so next thing we have up is AMD's new CPUs.
Yeah, tell me about this, Tyler, because I don't know what anything is.
So, from what now this is all based off of a Linus Tech Tips video that I watched at like 6 o'clock in the morning. AMD and Intel. Those are your two CPUs. CPUs are the component inside of a computer that literally is the brain, makes everything run. So Intel has always been the monopoly in a way. Intel's always kind of been like your local cable company. You're kind of just like, that's just who you get, then that's like your option. Like, you look at the other stuff and you're like, oh well, this is just what I got.
Yep.
And so Intel's always been, for both we'll kind of have two categories. There's usually a gaming category, and then there's a productivity category. Those are your kind of two primary benchmarks that people use for computer processing. So within the last generation of Ryzen CPUs, which Ryzen is the name that AMD uses to label their CPUs, Ryzen 3000 series hit the market pretty hard. They were super efficient, or super costly. Like, I think you can get a high-end one like $300-$400, whereas the Intel one was like $500-$600, right?
Yeah.
Like that was like the big thing, and
Right, it's the
you
name
had
almost, yeah.
Yep, you had more cores and threads, and without getting too much into that, having more cores and more threads, it's just like the higher the count of both, the more productivity you can do on your computer. Nice. The more things that you can do, the more maybe rendering or 3D modeling or video editing you can do with more cores and threads. So last gen, Ryzen hit really hard. They were like doubling the thread counts of Intel's, and they were like also $100, $200 less money. Now, for gaming purposes, they weren't there for the gaming purposes too much yet. You couldn't do too much like boost clocking, which boost clock is just a way to really squeeze out more like frames per second and stuff. They didn't have like the boost clock overclocking that you could do with an Intel CPU yet. So they were like, people still use them for gaming now for sure because they cost great. But when it comes to like, let's just look at how it does like performance wise, Intel's still always been at top. However, they just had the announcement of they're calling them the 5000 series. So the new Ryzen 9 5900X, which is their top tier, highest one, compares itself to a Core i9 10900K, which is Intel's kind of high-end
big boy
consumer.
Yeah.
Let's say consumer, because you have something called Threadrippers, and I won't even get into all that. That's like more like hardcore computing power. For just your average Joes like you and me, the Core i9 for Intel and this Ryzen 9 5900. These are the high-end commercial CPUs. So apparently, according to this graph that I'm looking at on this Linus Tech Tips video, which I'm pretty sure was pulled from the AMD conference that they had just the other day, they are showing that at 1920 by 1080, which is a pretty average resolution size that you normally play at, it is apparently claiming that high image quality preset, so that's just going on to the graphics settings and just putting everything on high, it's saying that in these following games, they have a X amount of performance higher than Intel's. So for example, it is saying that for League of Legends, it performs 21% better. For PUBG, 5%. For Dota 2, 6%. F1 2019 is 6%. Battlefield 5 is actually 3% less. Total War 3 Kingdoms is 1% higher. CSGO is 19% higher. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, 6% higher. Far Cry New Dawn, 2% higher. And Ashes of Singularity is 5% higher. So the big thing about this is just Intel has always been the gaming one. They've always done great for gaming CPUs, and AMD, they've done okay, but they haven't done better is the big thing. And now they are, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And then for kind of the content creation, they have another graph that shows for video rendering in Adobe Premiere Pro, it actually performs 13% better, which is great for video editors, of course. For rendering in general, it does 59% better and this is the same Ryzen 9 versus Core i9.
Yeah.
CAD, which I think is like the modeling rendering software. I know like a lot of like engineers use it. 6% better. And then just like compiling, GCC compiling is 14% better. So we still see the trend that for this like content creation performance, for like productivity, it's still better. Or at least what they're claiming. Right?
Yeah.
And then their gaming is supposed to be a little bit better. The one thing I thought was interesting was typically AMD, like the big thing was that like the price tag was always what was crazy about it. Like, oh, you could buy AMD's for a lot cheaper. Whereas this time around, they're actually more in par with Intel prices. So the Ryzen 5 5600X is coming in at $300. The Ryzen 7 5800X is coming in at $449. And then the Ryzen 9 5900X is coming in at $549. Still good prices, and they compare with Intel's prices for sure. And these will be coming out November 5th. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just pretty interesting to see kind of how things are going. And, yeah.
It's kind of cool to see just how fast they've kind of been able to take this upswing to level out.
Yeah.
In some ways with Intel.
Yeah.
It makes me wonder, because to your point, Intel, even I know, like someone who's so early into the PC realm, even I know Intel.
Yeah,
It's like it's a brand it's like, in terms of like PC, it's probably as big as Apple. Like in terms of like Intel. And it's kind of cool to see AMD kind of starting to come out next to them and be like, hey, like, we're going to be a competitor to you.
Yep.
Within a few years, we could even be beating you.
Yep.
If you don't keep up with it. Which brings it to healthy competition, which is good for consumers. But, like, do you see... I guess my only question to you on this is, like, do you see, like, in a few years, AMD making Intel... like, kind of having Intel run for their money?
Yeah, I hope that what it does is almost make Intel, like, think again now and be like... the next product that we bring out, it can't just be the same with slightly better.
The next iteration kind of
thing. It's got to be... I would love to see cost. I would love to see them just be cheaper. I have had to buy so many CPUs, and it's so aggravating. They're definitely pricey. I'd love to see a more consumer, budget-friendly something from them. I would love to see them actually quiver and be like, oh crap, what are we going to do? Because even with like AMD's, not necessarily about these ones right here, but laptops are actually starting to use AMD CPUs, which that hasn't been a thing for a while. I think Apple just started to kind of start using some AMD ones again. They've kind of gone straight AMD. And then some other computer, like your Dell, like some Dell laptops are starting to go AMD and stuff. And it's just nice. It is a good, healthy competition.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is they kind of gave a sneak peek at their new graphics cards. AMD graphics cards, they've, my personal opinion, haven't really been that great. They've had a lot of flaws. The last iteration of graphics cards they came out with were flawed for sure. But they're claiming that it should perform similarly to the 3080. Their new, I forgot what they call them. It's a kind of funny name, but their new cards should perform similar to the 3080. What do they call these things? Oh yeah, they're RX cards. So they claim it should be similar to a 3080.
Okay.
And what's interesting about this is you could potentially make a PC that's full AMD, which is something that no one really does because it's not that good performance-wise. Usually it's, you might have an AMD CPU, but then you just have an NVIDIA graphics card. Like Peter's PC right there. He's got an AMD CPU and an NVIDIA graphics card. I got an Intel and then an NVIDIA graphics. Like, usually NVIDIA is the way you go graphics cards wise. Right. So it's kind of interesting to see that, hey, they got some pretty good CPUs. They're consumer-friendly, decently priced. Your old motherboards, if you have a 3000 series, they will fit the same motherboard, so you shouldn't have to buy a new motherboard, which is good.
That's great, yeah.
And then, and if their graphics cards are good, you might be able to get their graphics card and have like a full AMD kind of system, which is just kind of, I don't know, it's just unique. Because you can't do that now because Intel doesn't make graphics cards. So it's not like you have like an Intel system. So I don't know. I think some people might just enjoy. When it comes to brands, there are some people who are very, like, they love their brands. Like, I'm a big EVGA fan. I don't know why. I just like their stuff. And then Corsair. I just, like, always drive towards these computer companies. And I can see some people being like, oh, I love AMD, and I'm excited to be able to, like, put my money into AMD because I want to support them. You know, it's like their way of, like, trying to help them stay afloat, right? It's like, oh, yeah, I'll buy your CPU, and I'll buy your graphics cards, and I'll tell my friends about your graphics cards and CPUs, and... So I think it'll be great competition, and I'm excited for it. Should be interesting to see, but testing will be where it matters the most.
Yeah, for sure.
You could put graphs up in front of our faces all day, but until you actually
see it in action.
Yeah, for sure. But
that is so true. Well, cool. I think that was literally all of our gaming news.
Yeah, not too much on the new front, which is fine.
Yeah, I mean, we still made good time with it. I think they were both big chunks of gaming news.
Which we also kind of went with like two happy things. I just realized this. We just did like two pretty happy things. We're about to talk about some pretty sad stuff.
Yeah, we're kind of.
I didn't realize
this is kind of a sandwich episode. We're starting with really great stuff and really happy stuff, and we're moving now to some really sad stuff. But don't worry, we will end with some happy stuff again. Yeah, this was actually. I'm gonna kind of put these two together.
That works. They're kind of similar.
Yeah, they're kind of similar. Like I was saying before with Calling All Nerds, this is a show not just for gaming, but like when we have the time, because gaming is definitely the primary focus for us both, but we also love to talk about movies, TV shows, entertainment, theater, books, board games, what have you, like whatever is on our mind that week, we will talk about it. And something that's been really running through my mind these last 2 weeks, because I know we took a break last week, so I've kind of had some time to think about this, is seeing the ripple effects of how COVID is hitting the entertainment industry. We knew it would, and we've seen it working its way throughout the entertainment industry over this year. But I think like the things that have happened in the last 2 weeks when it comes to Disney and when it comes to movie theaters has really started to shift my mind in a way of like, okay, what is the trajectory of this industry going to turn to at this point? What are we going to have to be forced to turn to survive if COVID continues the way it is? Particularly towards movie theaters. I don't think Disney has anything to worry about on the money front. But the main things that I want to talk about are two big things that happened in the last 2 weeks, one of which was Disney having a massive layoff, where they have, according to this CNN business article, I also saw it on multiple different things. I heard about it from some personal friends that work as characters at the parks, where 28,000 employees between Florida and California's Disneyland and Disney World theme parks have been let go.
That's so many people.
And basically because of the controvirus pandemic, you know, both parks have now opened, but their numbers, their attendance numbers are nowhere near what they should be in terms of how for them to make a profit. And so I get it. As a business, at the end of the day, it's always about the money. If you're not making money, if you have too many park characters just kind of roaming around, not really having anyone to entertain or to make magic for, why are they there?
Yeah.
And so it kind of goes to the effect of, you know, I was reading this article and one of the spokesperson, Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Parks, said the staffing cuts were necessary because of the prolonged impact of coronavirus, on business. That included limited capacity due to physical distancing requirements and the continued uncertainty regarding the duration of the pandemic. As difficult as this decision is today, we believe that the steps we are taking will enable us to emerge a more effective and efficient operation when we return to normal. We look forward to providing opportunities where we can for them to return when the time comes. And one of the main things I took from that is no one has any idea how long this pandemic is going to continue. Yeah. No one has any idea. We could still be where we are right now this time next year. We have no idea. You know, there's talks of vaccinations and how that all works, but that's not what that's not what this conversation's about at all. It's more about how it's hitting these industries. You know, Broadway has just announced that they're not planning to open up their theater doors in New York at least until May 2021. And it really kind of hit me because being someone that grew up in theater in high school and college doing musical theater And just having a lot of people in that industry, it's really hard to watch because these people that went to school and are so impassioned to follow their dreams of just being on stage, singing, dancing, acting, being characters at Disney for these kids, they can't do it right now. And so I thought that was a huge, huge thing because 28,000 people is no joke. That's a huge amount of people to be all of a sudden unemployed.
Yeah. Especially abruptly like that.
Yeah, abruptly. I mean, I think they were given like 2 weeks notice. I believe like their last day is like, I believe in November, like that first week of November. I could be wrong. I don't know. But it's just really hard to watch because that's a lot of jobs. Yeah, I get it though. You know, Disney has to do it because it's almost like they're hemorrhaging money. Yeah. At this point, and you know, I don't think they're. I could be wrong, but I don't feel like it would be. I feel like it would take a very long time before Disney would really start to hurt financially. But really, when I start to think about it, you know, Disney has many different avenues that it goes down, but mainly all of those avenues are entertainment. You have their movies, you have toys, you have the parks themselves, you have Disney Plus, which Disney Plus is probably their most profitable avenue that they have going on right now during the pandemic. They have different avenues, but you know, a lot of them are just really strained right now. Yeah, you see it because on Disney Plus, I mean, they released Hamilton on Disney Plus when that was originally going to be a theatrical release. They released Mulan on Disney Plus, and they have now announced that they're planning to release Soul, the next Pixar movie, on Disney Plus on Christmas Day for streaming. Movies that would have made them millions upon millions in the box office. And so you're just kind of seeing them honestly being forced to take this route. I think the one movie that they're holding out on is Black Widow. And it makes sense because it's Marvel, and that's those are their like
their staples.
Yeah,
at least
Marvel's,
right now.
Yeah, you're right. Like those are their staples, and so like I could definitely see them seeing how long this unfolds. Most of their Disney movies and their animated movies, I could see them going straight to streaming, whereas their Marvel stuff they're holding out on.
Do you think that the virtual space helps at all? Like, do you think that Disney could utilize, let's say we talked about like the Disney Plus side of things. Do you think that anything with the virtual space could like help assist with these things? Like, I don't know, let's say that someone slapped a VR camera in the middle of an auditorium and you could pay $10 for admission to see like a play or something like that, and you could just sell that seat a bajillion times. Let's just say, like, do you think?
You mean like on Broadway?
Yeah, and like, do you think any of this stuff? Do you think there's any saving this from like a virtual perspective because things are kind of more distance? Or
I don't know. I don't know if from a virtual standpoint if that's a possibility, at least for the foreseeable future. Just because I don't see a lot of entertainment industries using VR that much. I think it's a good idea, but I don't see a lot of people doing it because VR is so expensive.
Maybe not VR, but like let's just say that you could
watch like a virtual experience where they set up. I see what
on
you're
your phone
saying.
Or something. Like I think your wife just watched what's his I forgot his name.
Ben Rector. Yeah,
she just saw his like concert, right? Like, do you think maybe you could do that? Where it's like let's sell a protected Twitch stream, and for $5 you get a code that lets you in on it. You know what I mean?
I would hope so. I hope that more of these companies do that, at least when it comes to live performances.
Yeah.
I think the issue is with theater specifically is a lot of these theaters, a lot of these companies in New York on Broadway, I don't think that they've come to the decision, do we want to risk having people on stage, these ensembles on stage to do these plays, these shows where they have to belt out singing in front of each other, being close to each other. It's not really something that you can wear a mask and do. You know, it's one thing if like you get your temperature checked maybe like the night before, but then with theater it's a whole nother beast because, you know, you would have to do dress rehearsals, you would have to let them practice and get these shows ready to go because, I mean...
Well, you could be asymptomatic too. Well, you might not show signs, but you can still be a carrier.
Right, you can still be a carrier. And so
you get the test in time or something.
And I think that's why theater, like live theater specifically, is so much more of a hassle to bring back to life in this day and age, in this pandemic. Because
I feel like even just filming too.
Yeah, filming.
Just trying to like film a movie or something, or
yes and no. I feel like almost there, because I feel like with filming a movie, you control the set. You know, like you can pick a day to film. That's a great point though, because like with that, you can. There's a lot of ways that you can make it work where
make it look like you were together
close,
when
or
you might
something.
not been.
Right, like CG has come to. We are so far advanced in CG now that you can really make any. I mean, just look at Kurt Russell in the last like Guardians movie. He looked like he was 20 years old.
True.
At the beginning of it.
Yeah. The live performance definitely is going to take a hit.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like with those things, let's say with Disney parks specifically, and these like live performances, I feel like I actually haven't seen like a play or anything live. Well, I've seen like high school and college plays, so I've seen them live, and like for me, I don't know, 80% of the fun is being there for the experience.
Yeah,
the other 20% is just like, oh yeah,
There's a huge difference. You're right. Is when you're watching something live, even when we were watching Hamilton on Disney Plus the other month, it was incredible, and I really enjoyed it, and the music was amazing, but like it didn't have the same effect as it would have if I was sitting in a seat, experiencing them in front of me. Like it's just completely different.
Yeah, I know, like the Disney parks, or you go to feel the magic. The characters, everybody stays in character, and they love to interact with kids, and
and so it's hard. But to my second point on that, kind of going to theaters, where that's another thing that is happened over the last few weeks, where actually just happened on Monday, I believe, actually. This is from NPR, but this is Regal Movie Chain will close all 536 U.S. theaters yesterday, Thursday. More than 7,000 movie screens will be dark in the U.S. This was written by, I know, it's crazy. Basically, Regal is the second largest film exhibitor in the U.S. after AMC Theaters. It is a subsidiary of Cineworld, which is based in the U.K. But roughly 40,000 Regal employees across the U.S. now face a work furlough. The company told NPR more than 5,000 employees in the U.K. will also be affected. It is not a decision we make lightly, and we did everything in our power to support a safe and sustainable reopening in the U.S. Just another huge hit for people. This was written by Bill Chappell.
We have 7 around us. In our surrounding area, we have 7 alone.
Oh, the Stonecrest Regal, the biggest theater probably in the area in Charlotte, is shut down. It's baffling to me. It's not baffling. I was thinking about it, and this is kind of what I want to talk about when it comes to the movie theater experience, when it comes to movies, which for me personally, I'm a huge movie buff. Probably after gaming, movies are like my go-to. And it makes sense. Within the last 2 weeks, we've seen studio after studio announce that their big blockbuster hit for this year is being moved to 2021. James Bond, Dune, Fast and the Furious. I don't even know if that was supposed to come out this year. Black Widow. All these huge movies that would have made a bunch of money, not only for the studios, but for these theaters, has been moved back until further notice, all within a short timeline. And so when that happened, that's a huge hit for movie theaters, because that means no one's in the seats. And I think the reason that happened is because of Tenet. Because what happened was Christopher Nolan released Tenet to movie theaters, I believe August 21st, saying that it would be the movie to kind of rejuvenate the movie. That's what he wanted. He wanted it to be the movie that gets people back in the seats. He wanted it to get them in. That movie cost, I don't even know. I think like
$205 million.
Yeah, I was going to say probably north of $200 million. To this day, it has only made $45 million domestically in the U.S. alone, which means it did not make back the profit. Now, internationally, the movie has made over $250 million, I believe. So it has probably...
307.
307 at this point? Okay, yeah. So internationally, the movie has made money back. But the huge issue is domestic. And because the movie did not domestically make a lot of money, it didn't pull people into the seats. that scared off studios.
Yep, you're right. 45 million in the United States and Canada.
Yep.
And then the other 262 was just other territories worldwide, giving it a grand total of 307.
So it made a profit, but not the profit it should have made.
Yeah, the Observer estimated it would need to make 450 to 500 in order to break even.
To break even?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And then I guess there's a few other statistics. I'm just looking at a wiki article.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they give some stats. China 30 million, UK 13, France 10, Germany 8, South Korea 8 or 8. So yeah.
So needless to say,
good movie apparently.
Yeah, decent. No, I'm a huge Nolan fan, so I want to see this movie eventually. The issue is because of this pandemic, no one is going to the movie theaters. No one wants to sit even like 6 feet apart from each other.
Well, and I feel like too, some probably still can't. I know some theaters have opened up here and they're playing like older movies. Like you can go and see like Jurassic Park and like Star Wars Episode 4 and stuff in these theaters again, but obviously there's nothing new.
Right.
But that's just us. I feel like there's probably some states who still haven't even opened their theaters and they're just like not going open or anything.
All we know is our experience, right?
Yeah.
It's just sad because that happened, because the movie is not broken even. It scared off all these other studios, and they're just like, no way, we're not releasing our movie now, because if we do, we're not going to make any money. And so then we get to this issue that I was speaking on of why this is happening. Studios are backing off until 2021. Smart choice, probably, if they want to make money. If they want to keep making movies, they got to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're backing off, movie theaters do not have any new movies. If they don't have new movies, the very few amount of people that are going to the movie theater are going to stop going to the movie theater. Mm. And so at this point, Regal is shuttering all of their doors until further notice, which is huge. I would not be shocked if within like a month from now, we see the same thing happen to AMC studios or AMC theaters. And that's kind of where I want to get to the last point, because I feel like I'm drolling on here, so I apologize for that.
I'm just looking at some other films that got pushed back. They talk about Wonder Woman, Black Widow,
to name a
Greyhound.
Few huge movies. And so here's my thought process on this. I feel like AMC is eventually going to come down that way. The longer this pandemic lasts, the harder I believe theaters are going to be able to recover from this. Yeah. Unless they get some huge bailout from the government, which they might, I don't know. And so it gets to the idea of what my main focus of this is what are studios going to do now? How are they going to be able to keep creating movies? How are actors going to be able to keep getting business? What I'm thinking is that something that would naturally happen within the next 5 to 10 years is now going to happen due to necessity. And I think the answer is streaming. Yeah. I think that, we've seen it happen with a handful of movies. When they started doing it, it was kind of popular for 5 weeks, and then movie theaters had a huge fit about it, understandably, because theaters have contracts with these studios to say, hey, we get your movie, we get a portion of the profit from that movie based off ticket sales, you get the rest. I think what's going to have to happen is at some point these studios are going to be like, you know what, these contracts, null and void. Yeah. We have to release movies. If we don't, we're going under. Yeah. I'm sorry, but the middleman has to be cut out. Yeah. And I think what's going to happen is these studios are going to go all the way to streaming. You want to watch our movie? It's released on Amazon Prime, on your smart TV, wherever you can watch it. Netflix will buy it from us, wherever we can get it sold. You want to watch it? $20.
100%.
Right. Watch it with your family. I even did that with some movies back in August, and it was great. It was a fun experience. Yeah. But I feel like if this pandemic is going to last for the foreseeable future, studios are going to have to start making those hard decisions of being like, you know what? We have to go to streaming. We have to release this movie. We have to make some kind of money. Yeah. And what's going to be crazy is that if they do that, they're actually going to make more money than they would have made in the theater. Because I remember when it came out, I believe Trolls World Tour, that DreamWorks animated movie, came out on streaming. And I remember that AMC had a huge issue with it. And they told, I don't know if it was this movie specifically that 20th Century Fox had, that AMC had an issue with, but they were basically like, yo, you broke your contract. But Trolls made more money back in streaming this movie directly to the studio than it would have made in theaters itself.
Yeah, according to Julia Alexander on The Verge, AMC theaters will no longer play Universal movies after Trolls World Tour on-demand success.
Universal, that's what it was.
AMC theaters will no longer play Universal films effective immediately after unacceptable, in quotations, comments were made from NBC Universal CEO Jeff Shell on its decision to bypass a traditional theatrical release, which is what Max was just talking about, for Trolls World Tour, and made it digitally exclusive.
Yep.
So it says, new interview, Wall Street noted that World Tour succeeded their expectations, pulling in nearly $100 million in revenue for digital sales with more than 5 million copies.
And so, going back to my point, and thank you for pulling these out. This is really helpful.
Yeah,
it gives me like good facts of like, I think I'm right about this, but Tyler's confirming it for me, and I love it. Is studios have seen the profit.
Yeah.
They've seen that streaming works. Do they want to go that route? No. Will they have to go that route out of necessity?
Maybe.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think if this pandemic, I think if people are not going to go back to the theaters for the foreseeable future, they have to do what they have to do.
You know, I feel like consumers of the past 10 plus years, honestly, even farther, I don't even know why I just said the past 10 years, further back, what is the trend that comes in life is what is more convenient.
Right, convenience.
Right?
It's all
Started
about
out making stuff on a fire, got a microwave, things are better, right? You just keep on going for more and more convenience.
Yep.
What's more convenient for my life? And it's like, sure, my life's already super convenient, but now let's be even more convenient. You always think like, oh, how can you get more convenient, right? It's like,
Right.
Oh, I have a cell phone.
We're all just
how
going
can
to
I
end
get
up
more
like the
convenient
people
with
in
that?
WALL-E.
Exactly. And so,
just fat and big chairs that
oh,
move around
dude,
for us.
that would suck so much.
It's going to happen.
And yeah, I mean, streaming services are convenient. They're hella convenient. You just sit there and you just boom, click. You got them all going. One thing I could see is I could either see you continue to pay for these films when they come out, or I could even see these companies maybe making a deal with a streaming service where like your streaming service is now a little bit more, but you get guaranteed these movies.
Right.
Like, again, that breaks... I only think that because you talked about the contracts, and they're used to contracts, and contracts work. And so maybe they want to keep that. Let's just say maybe they do for some reason. They want to keep a contractual thing going.
Yeah.
I could see, let's say, Universal talking to Amazon and being like, hey, Amazon, how about you give us some of your Prime membership money, and we'll exclusively put your Universal films on there for free of charge. Maybe they'll still be on like your Hulu and your Netflix, but it'll be at an additional cost, maybe like $10, $20. Right. But if you have the Amazon Prime, you get it with it. Or maybe, well, Disney's a bad one because of Disney Plus, but let's just say Disney Plus wasn't a thing. And let's say Disney was like, oh, hey, Netflix.
Or Hulu, whatever.
Yeah, let's, say you charge $10 a month to your users. What about charging them $17.99? And now we'll exclusively put our movies on your platform when they come out.
Yeah.
I can see that.
Yeah, I could see that too. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think that's... And this is all just my opinion. Like, we have no idea what's actually going to happen here.
Oh, yeah.
But I totally... For me, the writing on the wall is there. This is kind of where studios are going to have to move out of necessity now because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
If they want to make a profit, if they want to continue making movies.
Yeah,
And
it's sad.
It is sad because, trust me, I don't want it because I love going to the movie theater.
Yeah, it's fun.
I love just like you said, being in the live hall of like a Broadway show.
Yeah.
There's a difference. You go to a movie theater, you want to see something in IMAX, you want to see something on the big screen.
Oh, IMAX is so cool.
Right, the big bowl of popcorn. It's the experience of it. Like, just to have that midnight release of something that you've been so excited for. And I'm scared. I'm worried that this is something that theaters are not going to be able to recover from. That's a cynical part of me believes that. But there is also a part of me that believes that there's no way in heck that theaters are going anywhere.
Yeah.
What I could potentially see is maybe after all of this is over, maybe the big theater chains like AMC, Regal are no longer around, or they cut down their buildings exponentially. or we just have mom and pops and drive-ins. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think theaters are ever going to fully go away.
Yeah.
I could see studios, like you said, moving their contractual agreements to streaming services for their movies, and then theaters are just kind of left in the lurch, or they kind of have to grab what they can get and just
go from there.
Yeah, go from there. It's really sad. I don't want it to happen, but that's really the main thing I want to talk about on these two is just with just the changes we're seeing in Disney, the changes we're seeing with movie theaters, with Broadway. It's really hard to watch, but it's interesting to watch too, because you're basically watching these industries evolve out of necessity into what they need to be to survive.
Well, I think we know one answer. You need to buy a new house, get a room, and turn it into a theater. I think that's the best answer.
I think that's the best answer too. Honestly,
in-home theaters.
I can if I can convince Ruthie to get I don't know,
a 4-bedroom house, and the 4th bedroom is just
a movie huge man cave.
Oh my gosh.
Trust me, that's my dream. I hope I can make enough money one day to support that dream. I'm not there yet, but maybe one day.
Gosh, could you imagine? Imagine if in-home theaters got more quote unquote affordable because of this. Could you imagine having an in-home theater? That'd be dope.
Honestly would not. You make a very good point. I would not be surprised if that becomes a selling point for homes.
That'd be great.
If theaters kind of unfortunately take a downturn. Who knows?
Have one at your house.
Then where do you need to go? Exactly. You can even hire someone to just have popcorn.
Have a part-time guy that's just working at your house. Oh my god.
Hey Jim, you got the popcorn going? Just put in a 6-pack of Orville for you.
God.
Here you go.
Oh, just man in the microwave, not even a real one.
Right. Thanks, Jim.
Oh boy. Well, all right. That was good.
Let's move on to some happy stuff.
Let's get some happy stuff. So games we are playing.
Yes.
Max, you got your computer. What are you playing?
I'm actually playing a whole lot more now than I was last time. I will say real quick, I'm not going to take up too much time on it. I am still playing the Mario All-Stars game. I am this close. I am literally less than 1% done.
His fingers are very close together.
Yeah, my world's smallest violin close. I am 118 stars on Super Mario 64. I only have 2 stars left to get, and they are a bear. I have to get the 100 coins in the Rainbow Cruise world.
Okay.
And then the 8 red coins in Bowser's final stage, which is not that hard. So really, it's just this final ridiculously annoying 100 coins in the Rainbow Ride world. Which, I will say this, 64, I never beat it as a kid. And I can see why. Because these last few courses, like Tick-Tock Clock, Rainbow World...
not easy?
Not great, Bob. No. These worlds suck.
Wow.
And even the music, they have the worst track. The one that's just and I mute it every time. It's just this is not great. Yep. But I'm making it through, and then I'm about to beat it. I'm really excited. And then Ruthie and I are going to play Galaxy. And then other than that, as Tyler was mentioning, I've been playing the heck out of PC games. Finally get to taste that great amazingness that is Game Pass through PC. And so I've been playing through Game Pass Ori and the Blind Forest, which is beautiful. Love it.
Music's really good.
Music's incredible. I love the animation style. And I'm also playing Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice with my headphones. And that is a really, really immersive game. That has an atmosphere to it that just draws you in and it won't let you go. It's very dark. It's very heavy. And I can see a lot of inspiration in it. Maybe God of War got a lot of inspiration in it. I don't know. A lot of how it's how it plays is very God of War-y to me. And it's even Norse mythology. And that's the game I'm having a few little technical issues with, but hoping to sort those out because I really want to finish the game. Yeah. And it's really fun. And then the other one is just my go-to. I set up a Steam account and I bought immediately Persona 4 Golden, one of my favorite games of all time. And I mean, the Persona franchise, for those of you that have not played it, if you like RPGs, if you like JRPGs, turn-based combat, get into Persona. Play Persona 4 Golden. You want an entry point, play Persona 5 Royal. These games are masterpieces. They are unbelievably good. They're huge. They're long. If you like really thick games with a lot of content, these games are like 1 hour, like 100-hour plus games. Like these will keep you busy for a long time. But yes, that's what I'm playing, and I'm really enjoying it so far.
Very nice. Yeah, Peter's playing God of War finally. He started that.
God.
He's not that far in. He also didn't know. I'm sorry, Peter, if you're listening to this, but I don't know how you didn't know. I was telling he's going to the mountain, and I was like, "Oh yeah, you're like bringing his mom there and his old wife." And he's like, "Wait, really?" I was like, "What? Well, yeah, that's the whole point of the journey to spread the ashes." And he's like, "Oh, I thought he just kind of burned her, and that was it." And I was like, "Why would they go to the mountain anyways?" So that's what Peter's playing. I love you, Peter.
We love you, Peter.
I am playing Night in the Woods right now. So I heard about this game, and I saw that it came onto Game Pass. As everyone knows, I am a big fan of Game Pass, which it is actually increasing in price. It's going to $10 now, which I'm totally okay with.
It wasn't $10 before.
Yeah, it was only $5.
What?
So now it's $10, and I was like, yeah, I'll still pay for that.
Oh my god.
Anyways,
that's incredible.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So Night in the Woods just got put on there maybe a week or so ago. I'm about halfway in. It's a pretty short game. I think it's about 8 hours. I'm about halfway. There's like 3 chapters. It's got a good music track. You play as they're animals, sentient animals that live lives, and you just play as a college dropout who came back home and kind of suffers from like this disassociation kind of disorders, and a lot of the other characters kind of have some mental kind of like instabilities, and they're just kind of hit on those kind of topics on stuff. So some of the games are really fun and quirky. Some of the games are pretty serious and like I wouldn't say dark. Some parts are kind of weird, but pretty real topics. So it's been good. I have all those.
I need to play. I need to check that out. I didn't know it was about that.
Yo, yeah,
I need to play that.
It's pretty cool. I have all the gameplays on twitch.tv/Mr. Teenator if anybody's curious.
Plug it!
So yeah, that is what I'm playing. And then after this is done, I am planning on playing... I'm thinking of playing Baldur's Gate 3, which we'll talk about here in a second, for games that were released.
Do you want to just go right into it as a segue?
Yeah, actually, yeah, we can. So I'm thinking about playing Baldur's Gate 3. That game was just released this week, and it's early access, so it's still...
What does that mean?
So for early access games, they're games that are not complete. So for Baldur's Gate specifically, only Act 1 is available right now.
Okay.
You can play through Act 1. However, there's certain features that aren't even in the game. There's bugs that are in the game. I think some races and classes aren't even fully put into the game. Oh, wow. So early access just means the game is not complete yet. Like there is still missing pieces, and you usually do this to get people into the game, get some money invested, and then also get that feedback, because you get that like raw feedback. Now some people have a whole discussion on early access and if it's right or not. I've seen some things on online forums and stuff about some people are pro early access, some people are negative on early access, and I kind of think, in my opinion, it depends on how you do it. If you're doing early access just to get some money but not actually do anything, and the game's just sort of like a demo, and like you're not actually going to change anything, it's like, oh, here's an early access, and then in 2 weeks the game comes out. That's, to me, not really a good point of early access.
Right.
With Baldur's Gate 3, the game isn't even going to be released until next year sometime. They don't even have a release date.
Wow.
They are purely doing this to say, hey, this is like what we got. What do you guys think? Like, they've done countless of videos online explaining stuff and like getting feedback. And so similar to how they're doing with their board game that I've invested in, they're all about testing and then getting feedback from a community. So they love to get input on like, hey, play this. What do you find that are bugs? What do you find is lacking? Do you think it needs more of this? Do you think it needs more of that? So they're actively taking feedback to figure out
That's so
what
cool.
they should do with their game. And like, So it's pretty cool. And the crazy thing is it's still voiced. You know, like the characters are still very voiced. All the characters, even in Divinity Original Sin 1 and 2, I don't think there's a character that's not voiced unless they're like a muted character that doesn't physically talk.
Yeah.
They always do voice acting with these things. It looks like the cutscenes are really cool. And I'm a huge Baldur's Gate fan. So I love Larian Studios. They are my favorite development company. So I'm eager to go into it. I think I will.
Nice.
Not too sure, but we'll see. After I finish Night in the Woods, we
Yeah.
will kind of see what happens on that front. Because part of me is also like, I want to wait and just get the full experience. A little bit of me is worried that if I play it, well, I probably won't. But a little part of me is like, what if I play it and then it comes out and then I'm kind of just like, meh, I don't know if I want to do it. I doubt that'll happen. The more I talk about it out loud, the more I think it's stupid. But
No.
so that came out this week.
Yeah, the other one that came out, I believe October 2nd, is Crash Bandicoot 4.
It looks so good.
It has already been declared the best Crash Bandicoot game.
Dang.
Out of, like, the original trilogy is great, but they did such a great job with 4, apparently. I read a lot of reviews. It's gotten rave reviews pretty much across the board for the most part. It's difficult as heck.
I heard it's very hard.
People are like, I mean, this is like throw your controller, like hard mode. But that's what Crash Bandicoot's about. It's a platformer, very simple style, but the game graphically looks beautiful. Oh, yeah. It's a continuation from the original trilogy, so it takes place after Warped. Or is Warped the second one? No. Second is Cortex's Revenge or something like that. Wrath of Cortex. Sorry. So there's Crash Bandicoot 2, Wrath of Vortex, and then Crash Bandicoot 3 Warped, and then this is the fourth one, Crash Bandicoot.
Trying to find these names. Come on.
Yeah, I'm probably butchering them, honestly.
Oh, that's Nitro. Whoops.
Yeah, that's a different one.
No, these are. Oh, there's so many Crash games.
Yeah, there's a lot of kart games.
Why is there so many carts?
Because they have to make. That's what they gotta do.
Crash Bandicoot, Cortex Strike Back, Warped.
Oh,
Wrath of Cortex.
Oh, Wrath of Cortex was a later game. Interesting. Okay, yeah. And so this one is the fourth one, Crash Bandicoot 4, and it looks incredible. I can't wait to play it. But if anyone out there has played Crash Bandicoot when you were a kid, you know what you're getting here. But the levels look really well designed. There's a lot of cool, like, new powers that you can use. Like, you can stop time. You can...
Yeah, so you get masks. That
you get masks you can wear of, like, different, like, entities of... And, like, you can stop time. You can float, or you can, like, defy gravity in some way. It just looks so cool. So, at some point, I'm going to pick that up. It looks really great. Definitely recommend.
And that's on PlayStation, Xbox, and looks like not PC, so just PlayStation, Xbox.
Yeah, Toys for Bob is now the people making it. Which, I mean, Naughty Dog was the original creator of the original trilogy, so the fact that this is that this is a continuation of that trilogy and it's remarked as the best one of them,
it's impressive.
Good for you, Toys for Bob. Like, it's not easy to surpass a Naughty Dog game, so congrats to you.
Yeah, definitely.
And then really the only other big game release that I could think of in the last 2 weeks was Star Wars Squadron. I really don't know much about it.
Yeah, so it's an interesting take. You have the Rebels and the Imperials, and you get to play on both sides.
Ooh.
And from what I was watching on the trailer, it was like... It almost looked like it was like teams. Like, you have like a team of people that like go out and fight the other side.
Yeah.
Let's see. Star Wars
Squadron.
Doing pretty good. 7 out of 10 on Steam. 87% plus on, or 87% like the game on
Metacritic.
Google reviews.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so it looks like you have like a 5-player like setup going on. You can either be like, one side or the other, and it looks like you just like kind of fight each other and stuff. Looks pretty dope though. Looks very interesting. I saw that.
That is really cool.
Apparently, and it has full immersion in VR. Yeah, you could play this game in VR, which was kind of cool.
Not gonna lie, I would want to play as the Empire just so I could be in one of those like little like circle ones that just
the little TIE fighter things.
Yeah, the TIE fighters like that. That thing is so cool.
Well, I have this thing, which I'm holding up my Extreme 3D Pro Logitech flight stick thing. I don't know. I think playing this game with this would be fun. It's got the little trigger. Yeah. It's got the little joystick. Oh. I think this would be so much fun.
Imagining those lasers shooting out when you pull the trigger. Like, pew pew.
Which is why I was hoping it was going to come on Game Pass, because I was going to plug that thing in and just play some Star Wars Squadrons.
That'd be sick.
I saw some Twitch streamers. The EA kind of did like they put some money into content creators and like gave them like a little access to be able to play it. And from what I saw, the content creators that I watch, they're very adamant on, if I do a sponsored stream, it's because I want to, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And they don't fake it. Like, they genuinely look like they were having a lot of fun with the Star Wars game, which for EA, they need any help they can get. What is cool, I like to see that because their last Star Wars game obviously did really well.
Yep.
What was it called? The
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yes,
which was an incredible game. Make more like that, EA, please.
Yeah, so it's good to see that their last Star Wars was good. This kind of like more spin-offy arcadey. It might have a storyline. I'm not too sure. I'm glad to see this does well too. I hope Star Wars continues to do well for them.
Same.
Star Wars games are amazing. And then lastly, not like a major thing, but Fall Guys Season 2 happened. And the reason why I kind of want to note this, because I thought it was just kind of crazy. Like, Fall Guys came out of nowhere, went hard, and like they already got a Season 2, which I think is just kind of cool. I don't know. I just didn't...
It's smart. It's it keeps them on the map.
Yeah.
Especially because this is like honestly the first game to really kind of combat Fortnite in terms of like...
Gosh, it seemed like it.
Yeah, to really just kind of like gain a lot of traction. It gained a big fanfare very quickly.
Well, and hitting that wide market. Because, Fortnite hit everybody.
Yeah.
You had kids. You had, like, people who pretty much weren't gamers playing this game. You had, like, young and old. And I feel like Fall Guys did the same thing.
Yeah,
everybody
was very family-friendly, very, like, neutral, cartoony. Like, there's not a lot of mature content. It's all just, like... The way I described it when I introduced it to my wife was like, this is basically Wipeout, but without the mud. You're just on this like kind of like in a Mario stage where if you fall off, you just fall into the abyss and then you're out.
Yep, for sure. And so Season 2 brought a new map. They went medieval. It's kind of cool. There's some like medieval skins, and they have look at this. The PS4 version now actually plays the game in 60 FPS instead of 30 FPS. So I guess that was like an update that happened.
Oh, that's huge.
A few mini games were added. There was like some new thing that's like a massive boot that just like can kick you. It's called like the Yeetus something, and it just yeets you off the map or something crazy. So Season 2 came out for this. I thought it was just kind of cool to see. Usually it takes a while for games to get like a Season 2. Like these like seasonal games you notice with like your Fortnite, your Call of Duty. Usually what these games do is if you pay some money, you'll level up in the game and then you get items for it. You might pay like $10 or something to get like a season's pass. And then if you pretty much just play the game, you just get a bunch of like add-ons and stuff. And with Fall Guys, at least for Season 1, you didn't have to pay anything. You just had to play the game. You just got like skins and colors. And
is Season 2, do you have to pay for it?
No. Well, I guess I shouldn't say yes or no. I'm not sure. The first season you didn't have to. You just played the game, and as you leveled up, you got new stuff. It would be cool to see if they did that again with this one. I hope they did, because it was fun just to play the game and just get free stuff.
It was so good.
So that was pretty much the big things that we hit on as far as like new games within these past 2 weeks. So Baldur's Gate 3, Crash 4, Star Wars Squadron, Fall Guys Seasons 2. If anybody has played those games, let us know. That'd be dope to see what everybody's opinion is of those.
Absolutely.
And then before we kind of finish off, we hit on Entertainment of the Week last time. And we did Seven Deadly Sins.
Yep.
The anime that was recommended by Max.
So
This week, I kind of wanted to do like a twofer. I was going to recommend something, and I was going to have Max recommend something. Yeah. And then I was going to do one thing. We kind of talked about it. And then as the podcast goes on, there's like another thing I want to recommend. And it's a board game. And Max has played it. And it's called Villainous. The Disney Villainous game.
So good.
So this is a board game where you play as Disney villains. There's a base set that comes with 6 characters. You get Jafar, Maleficent,
Ursula.
King
John.
King John. Yep,
Yeah.
King John. Captain Hook, and oh man, I was doing so great. Oh, Queen of Hearts.
Nice.
So you get those 6 characters to start, and your goal is to be evil. So I'll take a character, and then Max can describe his character that he played. So for example, I was playing as Ursula, and my goal was to get King Trident's trident and his crown, and I had to defeat him at a certain location on my player board. Without getting into too much detail about how it was, it's a card game. You have a deck of cards, and you play against the other villains, and your goal is to reach your objective. So that was my objective. That's what I had to do. And then you did King John, right?
Right, and you're right. That is one of the great things about this board game is that every villain you can play as has a different objective. Mm-hmm. For example, King John, his objective is to get as much gold as he possibly can. Yep. He is all about the greed. And I really loved that because none of his cards were very offensive. He didn't have a lot of like attack power.
Yeah.
It was mostly tricks and deception to kind of get your enemies to get you what you want.
Yeah.
And so just experiencing that was really fun, and I really liked playing as King John.
Yeah, it's a very tough game because you have it's so funny to say, like you fight heroes, which you don't normally say.
Right.
And yeah, gameplay is totally different. Like he said, his was not really an offensive play style. With Ursula, you actually can't physically attack characters with Ursula like you can in other ones. The only way that you can attack with Ursula is by inflicting a curse onto somebody and then moving their location. And when you move their location, they get defeated. So it's a very different way to play versus some of the other villains. There's 2 expansions for it that bring in more characters like Scar and Cruella de Vil and other characters like that. But yeah, that's a good game. So it's called Disney Villainous. I'll probably link the things that me and him talk about as well as the articles of anything in the podcast below. So if you guys are curious, we'll make sure to kind of like make the description of the video just kind of labeled, right? So I'll put links to all this kind of stuff elsewhere. But yeah, entertainment of the week. What do you got?
So for me, I am recommending a TV show. This is a Starz show, but it is a show that has really had a really hard grip on my heart for the last few years. It came out in 2014, and that is the show Outlander. It's called Outlander. This is, gosh, I don't even know how to describe the show accurately. This is based off a book series, a fantasy rom-com book series. But honestly, this is kind of a show that has everything. It's a romance. It's a fantasy. It's
love fantasy.
Yeah, it's period piece.
What does that mean?
Like it takes place in a certain time
Gotcha.
period of historical convenience.
Okay.
There's action. There's horror elements. There's violence and a lot of drama. Great character driven stuff. Like it literally anything that you can think of, this show has it in it.
That's cool.
And basically, what this show is about is there's a main character named Claire. I'll give you a brief overview of the show real quick. No spoilers. You follow this character named Claire, who is from the time right around World War II, or it might be World War One. It's honestly been a few seasons since we've even touched on it. Where she is actually a war veteran. She is like a war nurse. She's helped people out in that time frame. And so they win the war. She meets up with her husband, and they kind of go on a honeymoon for themselves into Scotland. And they find this, it's kind of like what you would call Stonehenge kind of thing, where they find these circle of stones that people would always say in Scotland the druids and like the fairies of the world would like, the fair folk would like come from. And so what happens is Claire hears this noise from these stones and she touches them. And when she touches them, she's taken back through time, back to 1776, something like that. That's not the actual year. Book readers, show watchers, if you already watched this, don't kill me, please. And she's brought back in time like 300 or 200 years beforehand into Scotland when England is at war with the Scottish people and trying to claim it as their own.
Yeah.
And everything goes crazy from there. So it's like a time travel story of like her all of a sudden in this area of Scotland.
Yeah.
And this show is one of the best shows I've ever seen.
Nice.
The quality of the show, the costume design, the setting, the music, my God, it just immerses you into Scotland. Beautifully done. And it's very well acted. It's Star's most famous show right now. It just finished season 5, and this is a show I own every season of on DVD because me and my wife are like huge watchers of the show. I even got Julie into it. We're on season 2 with her. It's very Game of Thronesy. This is very racy stuff. Gotcha. There's nudity, there's sex, so definitely not a kid's show.
Yeah.
This is very adult.
Kids don't watch it.
Yeah, no kids watching this, please. But it is just so well done. The villain of the show, at least for the first few seasons, is probably one of my favorite villains I've ever seen on film. And I cannot recommend it enough for people that like any kind of genre like that. If you like fantasy, if you like period pieces, if you like Scotland, watch this show. You can watch 3 seasons of it on Netflix. Season 4, honestly, they probably have a contract with Netflix, so every season will probably eventually be released on Netflix. But there are 5 seasons in total right now. Each season is following the books. And Diana Galadon, I butchered her last name, I apologize, Diana. Amazing writer of these books. She has 2 more to go, but there's going to be 10 books in total, which means 10 seasons in total. And I just can't wait to continue this journey into season 6. But as of season 5, this is one of my favorite shows out there that's on TV right now.
Wow.
Please, please, please go watch this show, people. Like, this is a sleeper. Like, people, like, seriously, like, people do not know about this show.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
There's diehard fans out there, like myself, but like the mainstream media, this has not broken the zeitgeist. Like, people don't really know about this show. And I get it. It's not really a show like any other out there.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it hasn't really broken into that mainstream.
Yeah.
But it is well worth your time. You need to watch this show. Trust me. It is incredible.
The Mad Max seal of approval, folks. We got it here. And I think with that being said, that's all we got for you today, folks. So, Max, where can we find you that's not on Twitter?
When we went live without me knowing. You can find me at MadMax528 on Instagram. And that's it for right now. But I promise one day I will get Twitter.
Oh, for sure. I will definitely be also working on a Calling All Nerds Twitter account. I'm like formulating all these things in my head.
I love it.
But until then, you can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitch.tv, all at Mr. Teenator. Links to all this kind of stuff will be in the description. And I think that's all we have for episode 3 of Calling All Nerds. I appreciate you all very much. Thank you for tuning in. Hope you have a good rest of your weeks.
Stay safe, everybody.